Good afternoon, members of the media. I want to thank all for coming out for this, another in the series of press conferences put on by the Office of the Prime Minister. I want to recognize my cabinet colleagues who are here. It is an interesting feature that more and more persons are willing to come and to have a first-hand look as to how these press conferences are being conducted. And we salute this development as part of the increasing show of accountability of the government and the responsiveness of the public. I want, in keeping with that requirement of accountability, to give a brief report with respect to my recent visit to the United States of America, and then from there to Toronto, Canada, in relation to my lead portfolio in the quasi-CARICOM cabinet with responsibility for matters of health, HIV, and human resource. I was accompanied on the visit to the USA with the Minister of State, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, where we met with a number of donor agencies, including the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative personalities, to see how we could procure further assistance and support for the CARICOM region as a whole to advance the development of healthcare. Senator Wendy Phipps is well versed on these matters, and so at a later date or a later period in this press conference, I'll ask her to share more of the details. We had very, very useful discussions with President Clinton, not only on matters of health, but issues of global interest, including the security situation in the region and how he can utilize his considerable clout as a popular 42nd President of the USA to assist the Caribbean, particularly in the context that 95% of all guns and ammunitions located in illegal activities are attributed to production in the US of A. It is a matter which he undertakes to give study and support. Like all of us, he is concerned with respect to the security issues which are emerging. He appreciates the view that notwithstanding the Second Amendment protection for citizens of the USA to bear arms, in fact, there is no right for those arms to be used in illegal activities. And so I believe in him. We have found a friend, and we will pursue his support in advancing this particular agenda. Of specific interest to us in St. Kitts and Nevis is the fact that there the health officials from the region, and Minister Phipps will go into more detail, proclaim that St. Kitts and Nevis is on par to become the first country in the OECS. I repeat, the first country in the OECS, the first country in CARICOM, the first country in the Americas outside of Cuba to bring an end, eliminate mother-to-child transmission with respect to HIV. This is a significant, I repeat, a most significant achievement. And while some work and tests are still being finalized, the fact that this information was shared publicly in a setting like that speaks to the confidence which the authorities have with respect to this development in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are taking leadership. It doesn't mean that all is well or perfect in our fight and battle with respect to HIV and other health issues, but it means in this particular indicator, we are top of the class. And we hope that this preliminary finding will, in fact, come to fruition very shortly. And so this acclaim, noteworthy as it is, could be another important one for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to enjoy. There are developments in the local health sector, and Minister Phipps will speak to this particular matter. The second leg of my journey to Canada was in fact at the invitation of John Giuliani. Giuliani is the owner, principal behind what is popularly referred to as the Jacta property, one of the largest hotel actually in St. Kitts, second only to the Marriott. And he was having an event, and part of that event was to have a fundraising effort for the children's home here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I think that was a philanthropic act, very important, and we were happy that in fact it came off successfully. Sometime next week, Mr. Giuliani will be here and will make a presentation to the children's home. Don't want to make any disclosure since that was his event. I want to acknowledge at that event to our ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Michael Powell, and the presence of both him and I were well welcomed by the crowd there. We had an opportunity there to also meet with a large cross-section of interested investors. And as a result of their familiarity with the Giuliani and the kingship that existed, we are expecting a number of them to come here to pursue their business interests. That then takes me to look now at our economy. It is, in my view, a mark of strong support for our prudent management of the economy that the IMF, in one of its staff report dated 2nd June 2017, stated for all to see and acknowledge, and I quote, St. Kitts and Nevis attained the strongest growth and fiscal performance in the ECCU region in recent years, with public debt set to meet the ECCU's 60% of GDP target in 2018. To be clear, the ECCU debt target of 60% debt to GDP ratio is set for 2030. St. Kitts and Nevis then will achieve this target some 12 years ahead of the target date for the currency union. This, of course, is excellent news. This, of course, indicates that we are doing better than most. This, of course, speaks well to our approach to fiscal and economic management. And it is coming not from me. In fact, it is coming from the most important global entity reporting on fiscal and economic affairs, that is the IMF. It is well known that we inherited a very high debt and that part of our fiscal response is to reduce it. In this regard, by 2017, we had repaid, 2016 rather, I think it was, Financial Secretary is here, a total of 117 million of the over 225 million contracted with the bailout with the IMF in July of 2011. We paid off the IMF debt, expedited the payoff, thereby redeeming our country's good name and signaling our commitment never again to so deliberately get on the part of profligacy and fiscal recklessness that were the harbinger to our going a begging to the IMF way back then. To date, according to the statistics received from the Ministry of Finance, the public debt has been reduced, or rather we have paid on the public debt $228.5 million, reducing it by 13% since 2015. Equally, so we are not only working on debt, equally we have grown the economic pie by 9% from 2.3 billion as it was way back then in 2014 to 2.5 billion in our short stint at the helm of the government. Imagine if that over $250 million that we had to spend thereabout and the public debt were pumped into capital projects in the country, how much more the economic pie would have advanced. This superlative performance of consistent economic growth under our watch, the significant debt reduction, some 13% in a short period of time, the job growth, the expansion of credit to the private sector, the reform and repositioning of our CBI to platinum status. For all of these, I give credit to the unleashing of a more disciplining spirit and entrepreneurial zeal among our people, and to the hard work of the professional staff within government. People are generally positive about the Team Unity administration, and genuine people understand that this administration is here to stay, and we are doing good. In fact, we are doing very well when we consider the realized performances elsewhere. Only about 2 weeks ago, the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank was with us. Somewhere in my files I have the package, the PowerPoint that he presented, and it looked on almost all the indicators, St. Kitts and Nevis ahead of the game. It is important to demonstrate by way of contrast, and so I want to contrast the IMF report of June 2017 to what the IMF had to say just over 3 years ago. In fact, March 2014, in their release number 14/138, the IMF stated then, St. Kitts and Nevis is recovering from a 4-year economic recession. 4-year economic recession. Recession is down the escalator. Occasioned by international financial crisis, the need to restore fiscal sustainability and restructure the public debt. For 2013, real GDP is estimated to have grown by 1.7%, based on a modest recovery in tourism and a strong pickup in construction related to the CBI program. It goes on, the economy is expected to grow by 2.7 in 2014 and continue to strengthen over the medium term towards its potential growth of 3 to 3.5%. In contrast, this statement with St. Kitts and Nevis attained the strongest growth and fiscal performance in the ECC region in recent years, to what they were saying in March of 2014, a 4-year economic recession. For the record of those who are interested, the IMF publication reminds us of our economic growth pattern of the recent past, and lest we forget what our economic growth looked like then in 2014. 2010, negative growth of 3.8. 2011, negative growth of 1.9. 2012, 0.9 negative. 2013, 1.7 projected. And this is at page 4 for the doubting Thomases of the IMF report. In sum, the first 4 years of the former administration last term was marred by an accumulation of negative growth. Indeed, the IMF in March 2014 reported that following a prolonged slowdown, with GDP decline by a cumulative 10% between 2009 and 2012. So the slippage had been prolonged. The contrast then is obvious. After the people made the change, we had economic growth in 2015 of about 5%, in 2016 3.1%, and our projection for 2017 is that we should average somewhere around 3% if all things goes well. The Honorable Patrice Liebert get our port up and going. All these things will conduce to our achievement of these and more. I make reference to the growth in the economy because, in my view, it is the most fundamental element that would lead to the promised prosperity. The growth is a mark, an indicator of the health of the economy, and put simply, positive growth is always better than negative growth. Positive growth means you're adding to the economic pie. And that is why when we compare 2014, where we were and where we are now, we have improved upon it. And perhaps some of these economic data are difficult for some people, and some people deliberately would prefer to disnotice them. So then let's look at what is happening on the ground. RAMS reported its best financial year in 2016. Earlier this year, it opened a brand new supermarket, one of the best in the region, according to its customers, and I certainly agree with that view. RAMS is presently expanding at Port Zante, and somebody told me the other day, it looked like at long last, RAMS spending the money. I'm happy that they are. Scotiabank reported its best financial year in 2016 and received notice and recognition by the prestigious Financial Times out of London as being Scotia's most outstanding bank around the world, and the Caribbean region in particular. SL Horsford reported its best financial year, the best in 142 years history in St. Kitts and Nevis. SL Horsford and TDC are two of the largest companies in St. Kitts and Nevis. Diversified as they are, whatever happens to them reflects upon the health of the economy. And just, I think it was last week or this week, the news came out that TDC doubled its operating profit for the financial year just ended 2016-2017 from 5.5 million. It increased by a whopping 137% in 1 year. The profit for the TDC group moved from 5.5 million to 12.9 million, an increase of 137% in 1 year. I am hoping that our Controller of Customs is listening and marking the books accordingly. Importantly, the good news story continues. The automotive division sold more vehicles than at any prior period in its history. They did so well, according to their directors, that Toyota and Suzuki, way yonder overseas, Japan, commended them for exceeding sales target. Imagine that. Right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, the automotive division recorded its best in its history, and so significant was its best that the principals of Toyota and Suzuki sent them a letter of commendation. Buy more, please. City Drug Store, Nevis Limited, and TDC Business Center St. Kitts reported profit before tax 80% higher, for the record, 80% higher than those of the preceding financial year 2015 to 2016. The number of flights handled by TDC Airlines increased by 20%. In some, across a diversified range of sectors and activities, there is fantastic news, not just for TDC and its 630 employees and record at the 31st of January, but for our country at large. The good news then is reflected in the hard economic data of positive growth consistently under Team Unity against an accumulation of deficit between 2002 and 2009 recorded by the IMF, and a net accumulation of very modest growth thereafter between 2010 and 2014 of about 1 point something percent. the fiscal performance, financial sector was doing good. Best ever performance. National profit went up. Scotia at its best. What about the credit unions? They too were doing well. I am not sure if the Commissioner of Police is a member of that. He perhaps should be, and the deputy is too. And they will report that in their last financial year, in the last month or so, it was reported that they had their best performance to date. So good it was that they did the imaginable, and they paid a 15% dividend. 20? Wow, it went up. 20% dividend. Imagine anywhere in the world you get a return of 20%. The news is almost too good to be true. I'm happy that you good gentlemen were here, because I was decreasing you by 5%. But this is excellent news. So you are seeing a same message, the substance of the message across the economic sectors, across the financial sectors, formal and informal, is telling the same story of the health of the economy. Not only is the Police Cooperative Credit Union having an outstanding financial year, but the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, with a membership of 14,491, and record in 2016 up 689 members. To be a member, you have to buy a share. And imagine in 1 year, 689 more persons went to become members of the credit union. That tells something. That credit union, according to its report, now have assets totaling $123.5 million. A credit union, the penny bank sort of stuff, we formerly associated with credit unions, have now reached to a stage where one of them could boast over 14,000 persons on its roll, and could boast an asset base of $123.5 million. Something wonderfully good is happening in the country. Its loan portfolio increased by 6% to $75.4 million. Savings climbed by 10% to reach $96.9 million. And I understand that its net surplus grew 23% in 2016 over 2015. I further understand that part of the reason for the 689 new members had to do with the action of the RBC. So when RBC began to do unkindness to its customers, many of them went elsewhere, because the fiscal space has changed and persons now have alternative. So I am grateful that our corp seemed to have been the beneficiary of the exodus from RBC. The social security data too are instructive as to the progress and growth in the economy. More and more persons, it becomes clear, are earning the keep. The social security data reveal that 2016 was the best ever results it has had. It had the largest number of employees registered in any 1 year. It had the largest number of contributors on record at 29,186. It had the largest number of jobs on record, and it had the highest ever annual wage bill on record at $918.7 million. That is what Social Security is recording. These facts then speaks to progress in the job market, and they speak the same message relayed by the economic growth. The country is moving forward since February of 2015. There are those who forget that in their last term, they gave us the highest public debt in the history of the country. and the second highest per capita debt in the world. They are those who forget that they gave us the highest introductory rate of VAT, that they gave us an 85% hike in electricity bill, which crippled many small businesses. And up to date, a number of people's homes are still in darkness. Thanks to the generosity of the Honorable Ian Liebert in giving good guidance and general direction to Skellig, there is a payment plan now in place, and we hope more persons would pay. We don't expect that you might be able to manage all that debt accumulated, but pay something and attempt to keep current. And when you're out of the house, turn off the lights, because we waste too much of electricity and water, and then when the bill comes, there are problems. So that is where we're at. I want now to turn to another important program under our economic development program. I could have reminded in terms of the past history about the bounce tricks for the Nevis Island administration. Some would want us to forget. And we have moved away from that. Every month now we are giving budgetary support of about $2.5 million. So the NIA has had over $60 million or close to that since Team Unity administration came to office. A change in the dynamics, in the relationship, and in the cooperative approach between federal and local governments. Yes, wonderful things are happening. The National Housing Corporation has made some progress, and yet there is room for more. They have advised me that they have made progress on about 127 housing units. Mr. Hamilton is showing me 134, but I won't argue for 7. That's my constituency number. It may look as if I'm biased. So we would say between 127 and 134 housing units now under construction all over the country. In every constituency, houses are being built. In every constituency, no discrimination. And you will recall that before we started this year, with this program which we launched around, was it February? Or thereabout, we had already given out some 84 houses completed, 84. So in just over 2 years, we would have delivered 211 Unity housing solutions. I'm advised that another 100 units are to start shortly. I want also to report that this is not all, that we have what is called the First-Time Home Owners Program. It was a program like this from which Senator Carty was able to build his house up at Boardwalk, and then to have that lease to the former Commissioner of Police, C.J. Walwyn, at an extortionate cost to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Under these programs intended for the ordinary civil servants who need a home in which to live, not to rent like Carty did. 263 persons have received support for mortgage financing based on the guarantee which we offer, waiver of taxes and so on. In the reports that I've had from the Ministry of Finance, this program has cost us, in terms of revenue foregone, over $2 million plus in taxes. But what it did is that it made mortgage financing affordable, particularly for our civil servants. 263 of them have benefited since Team Unity came to office in 2015. So you have 211 one way. You have 263, bringing a total of 274 persons have now been provided with the opportunity for home ownership under this government. This is class performance by any standard, you know. But we haven't been telling the message perhaps as effectively. In less than 2 years of going, this government has made available 474 housing solutions, 211 by NHC, and 263 by way of the first-time homeowners program. And yet that is not the full story, because under the help program at the NHC, 200 families have received assistance to repair and renovate their homes, costing the NHC to date $2.84 million to service these families. When you add it all up, 211 plus 263 plus 200, we're talking about 667 families who, if they are mindful, could say, thank you, Team Unity, you're doing a very good job. 667 families touched to date by the housing response of an administration is no mean achievement. And yet when all this is happening, there are those with bad news. Bad news they get addicted to. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening in the face of the economic report from objective agencies. Nothing is happening in the face of the reality which I outlined. Nothing is happening in Nevis either, but Armando Athletic Track is in progress. Nothing is happening they would have us believe, but Alexandria Hospital, work in progress in terms of expansion made possible through the SIDF. When under the watch of former Premier Parry, my good cousin, they got nothing from the SIDF except a loan. Except a loan. These projects are substantially grant financed through the SIDF. There's a new docking facility, is that what it's called, or you have another word for it?
Orally Beach.
At Orally Beach. Abattoir is being expanded. Generating power is being provided. Rollins Roads and Shaw's Roads are among those roads now having an upgrade. In St. Kitts, houses are being built all around the country. Well, in most places. Stapleton, Race Course, Stadium View, Old Road, Green Acres. I don't know if that is a mistake or that is a proper description. Those are in number 4. There are a few in Tabernacle and a few in Molyneux, and we are grateful. But we have a new ferry terminal happening there, and the Minister of Public Infrastructure could speak of other capital project that is going to take place or have begun at our airport. We are going to be spending at the airport between now and perhaps October, well, let's be generous, the end of the year, $18 million in capital projects. $18 million at the airport. And what about Cane Grove project? This is an example of local entrepreneurship worthy of emulation. And I want to commend Farron Lawrence, who is heading that, and to wish his project every success. I want to commend him because we need to see more of our people take a chance in their country and invest in its development and make a living from their ingenuity and creativity. Too many people are waiting only for the government. So those of you who are of a certain income level, you should get more information on this project. There was a grand opening of it, so there's at least 1 home completed, 4 more under construction, and the project envisages 50 middle-income homes to be made available. So any of you civil servants over $5,000 per year, and you want to get a home, you can get one there. If the Deputy Commissioner of Police wants to get a home in St. Kitts, one is available there. In due time, we will be providing those police officers at that level a brand new home. In due time. We have the Tilloff project that is moving slowly but surely. We have the St. Kitts Castle Hotel and Frigate Bay, nearly 100% complete, just as the roundabouts to all could see. We have the Coast Guard headquarters at Bird Rock making steady progress and line for completion this year. We have a police training facility at Limekiln, which was stalled for several years. Now construction work continues. We have a National Heroes Park adjacent to the Connery Sport Facility, which is taking shape beautifully and majestically. Strategically placed, this landmark serves to greet all as they enter St. Kitts and Nevis and wave a stately goodbye as they are about to exit. And you see from what the opposition described as being a barren land, we see now tall palm trees appearing to take root. I want some more rainfall so the lushness and the verdant green could show for all to see. From barren land on the theme unity, fertility, with God's blessing, is being evidence in the work and progress that is there. And that is not all. Since we came into government, we found a way to provide support for the small and medium-sized enterprises. We went to Venezuela along with the Minister of Infrastructure, and we secured from the president then $5 million commitment to jumpstart that project. We later this year were able to mobilize to National Bank a further $30 million for that project. And to date, $50 million have been approved under the Fresh Start program. And there are 638 beneficiaries. Something wonderful is happening in the context of the ECCB report, which speaks to a reduction in financing to private people. Here in St. Kitts, the largest quantum of resources ever earmarked for the small business sector has been put to work. And we can find 638 witnesses to the efficacy and the efficiency of that program. For that I say, to God be the glory. Our new passenger cruise pair soon to come. Indeed, this Saturday the Cabinet shall meet to finalize some issues with regard to that. But look at this hard-working Cabinet, sacrificing Saturdays, Culturama Saturday, if you will, to meet, to advance the cause and the quality of life for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. You wouldn't get it any better than you have now with a Team Unity administration. And our Bastia High School will be built starting this year. I want to say a brief word on it, and it is that the building of the Bastia High School was one manifesto commitment that was overwhelmingly endorsed by the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and perhaps the people of East Bastia in particular, for that is where the school resides physically. We are then just simply pursuing our mandate in relation to the Bastia High School. This wasn't some fishing expedition in which we embarked. We canvassed the length and breadth of this country, put forward our case that having regard to all the international and regional report which warn with regard to the health and safety at the Bastia High School, that a new venue was the best place. And what it was, they had told us then, precautionary principle. Precautionary principle. If you don't know for sure, do not let the teachers suffer on that site. Do not let the students suffer on that site. And this is simply all that we are doing. So the lot of noise is unhelpful about it. and it will not detract us from proceeding with our manifesto mandate. It was something that has been voted upon. We didn't say to the people we're going to put them back there. We say, not there. Not there. We didn't go about choosing the site willy-nilly. We had professional advice. We went through about 6, 7 different sites with technical people and did a system of evaluation where the technical people came and they give this one, this score, that score, that score, and gave us a short list. We then, as another mark of precaution, submitted that list conscious that one of the area was the area around which the aquifer and watershed presumably lay. We gathered the best team of experts in water management issues, including Dr. Haler Siheli, a former head of water management, an acknowledged expert in the area, including the best competency we had available on the island of Nevis, including persons from abroad. And we said, put all of them together, including Atil Wallins, the best minds then in water management. They looked at all the sites and they gave us, if you will, the go-ahead that there should be no reasonable challenge to the aquifer, to water quality, etc., if we were to proceed there. And of course, if certain best practices were observed. We are at the final stage. And I want to make it clear that this project really is about future-proofing St. Kitts and Nevis. And there's no better way of future-proofing St. Kitts and Nevis than to invest in the young people. I prefer to spend millions building a school than have to spend millions on rehabilitation program because persons fell through the crack of our education system. I prefer to do that. And there's some who say, well, the schools sound expensive. Well, everywhere around the world, education is expensive. For the individual going to UWI or UVI, education is expensive, but it is a worthy investment. And that is how we have to see it. So if we think education is expensive, try ignorance. Try having to build a new prison because people fell through the crack and too many of our citizens are left behind. Let me make it very clear that the health and well-being of our teachers of Basti High School and the preservation of our watersheds, our aquifer, our water quality and yield will never be taken for granted by this administration. And we will apply the best standards to seek solutions in the public interest. We will never gamble with the lives and well-being of our citizens. The advice that we have had so far give us confidence that we are on the right track. There are some people, as I said, want to price it out. No. We are giving St. Kitts and Nevis in the construction of that a state-of-the-art school, as good as any would be in the region, because our people deserve no less. Having regard to the trauma that existed at the old Bastia High School, I saw a teacher from East Bastia bare the top of her body on WhatsApp and social media to make the point that she was hurt. I heard Miss Knight at the Bastia High School go on Radio Win FM and speak to what being at that school was doing to her. Under our watch, this will not happen again. And that is why we are proceeding with respect to that facility. Quickly, I want to turn to public safety and national security and to say in this regard that our efforts in keeping the country safe continue unabated. The public has given great support to the renewed and heightened visibility of the police and defense force at strategic locations around the country. The police are busy, as they should be, tackling crime and criminals. More guns have been taken off the streets, I believe, to date so far. They may have confiscated about 29, 30. Figure keep growing. And the importance of that, though, is that every gun, every illegal gun that we take from the street represents one more threat removed from our people being maimed, being injured, being hurt, being shot dead. I want to thank all the citizens and residents who have been sharing information with the police, and I urge you to continue. Quickly, in relation to the crime situation, I want to use the opportunity to give an update on the status of the Chinese national Wen Biao, whose name has appeared on an Interpol watch list, and who, unfortunately, in 2013, September, was given a St. Kitts and Nevis passport by the Douglas administration. It is now public knowledge that that passport did not bear the country of origin field. That was one of the challenges that the US government had with our passport and the Canadian government. Hence the description of identity management problems with our CIU program. And we had warned Dr. Douglas then that it was unwise, risky to issue passport without the country of birth field. And that was going to harbor illicit actors coming into the program. The public would have been aware by media reports that Biao has since returned to China on his own volition to face the charges that have been leveled against him. His departure from the Federation has not been hampered by the non-renewal of his St. Kitts and Nevis passport, given that his Chinese citizenship would have provided him and did provide him with alternate means to facilitate his travel back to his homeland. Our passport then would not be implicated in any movement to and fro in relation to Mr. Biao. I want to laud the success we have had in crime fighting at the level of the judiciary through the bringing into being of the Second High Court, which has helped in some ways to fast-track criminal matters at the High Court level. And equally, at some point in time, we want to commend the efforts so far of Dr. Neil Stryton, who has been working in terms of social involvement in the communities, attempting to reach out to gangs and at-risk youths in our community. And he's been working with members of the police as part of their effort at community policing. I gather so far he has spent a considerable amount of time, he and his wife, so we are getting 2 for 1, in Nevis, working with the Department of Community Development. I hope, Premier, you're getting good news about his involvement there. He has intervened even in a case of an attempted suicide and brought his professional experience to bear. In relation to the way forward, we are expecting to introduce cadets in our secondary schools starting in September of 2017. We are beginning with the police to form a number of community groups so as to develop an affinity and closeness between the younger generation and the police. And in fact, one of the largest groups has been formed. It's called the Mulfield Explorers, and it has a membership of 120 young people. I hope that that will be sustained. I want to thank the inspector. What is her name, Mr. Petty? Rosemary Isles, who has been spearheading this particular effort, and to commend all the parents who have volunteered their children to be participants in this exercise. We hope that given the young people a chance to interact with the police, confidence is being built, friendship is being shared, and many of them one day will come to be upstanding police officers too. Speaking to our efforts at law enforcement, I want to recognize in our presence the retired Major General Stuart Sanders. Welcome, sir. We are happy to have you. And we hope that your stint with us will be a most outstanding one, and that you will bring all your wealth of knowledge to a variety of career postings to bear in assisting us at a difficult period of time. I gather now you are the most famous law officer in the country, having seen your name so often on social media. But we welcome you though, with all the highest expectation, because the country does in fact need to turn the tide on lawlessness and criminality. And experience and expertise certainly should assist us in this regard. The other matter, well, again, I am happy I reported about the progress at the Coast Guard, and I was encouraged when I heard one of the officials at the Coast Guard indicated that the morale there was at an all-time high as a result of the work we were doing in giving them new quarters. I have spoken with Superintendent Adams, and he told me that the men under his watch are also highly enthusiastic about leading the fight, and I want to encourage them to do that, and we shall find some other ways to reward the excellent work which some of the police officers are doing, and we likewise should find other ways, sanctions, to deal with those who are non-performing. I want, as the Commissioner of Police has done before me, to say we have a lot of opportunities in the police force, and to make a special appeal to the young people, the school leavers, those who are not working, to apply for a career in law enforcement. Being in the police force is not just about carrying a button or buttons. It's not just about standing on some beat. It's also about learning a diversified array of life skills that could put you in good stead for life. But the career paths in terms of policing now are so diverse. So for example, as we are building out our CCTV program, we need young men with knowledge in ICT to be part of that particular program. As we are developing our forensic department, we need young people with expertise and experience in forensics. So there's a wide range. As we are talking about building and reorganizing our traffic department, there's room even in administration. We are making a special appeal. Our citizens are our first priority. If enough persons do not come forward, we will have to go, as has been done in the past, overseas to recruit people, because the void in the human resource quotient at the police force cannot be left unfilled in the interests of law and order. Equally, we have added new persons to the prison rehabilitation program. We are looking for another 10 or so persons for training in the customs. The Customs Department has a regular training program for recruits, and we want to build on that cadre of persons. And so we are welcoming and encouraging people to get involved. We want our parents not to have their children at home being idle doing nothing when work is going a begging in the country. And for people who are starting, we have to be real practical. Your first job is just that, your first job. And where you can get a work, what you learn from that work experience can then be transferred elsewhere. So don't get too caught up that you're waiting on the bank. I was waiting for work in the bank when I left sixth form and never get the opportunity. What if I waited all this time I would be at home, fatter than I am now, waiting for a job in the bank? So we have to be practical with life and encourage the young people to take opportunities when they come and use it as a yardstick to move to the next level. I make a special appeal to our parents to help your children abstain from alcohol, refrain from drugs, and definitely say no to guns and ammunition. Say no to guns and ammunition. I know some parents sometimes turn a blind eye. You know, the young man up to mischief. You know, he has money and he's not working. And you will say, well, this is the one to look after me. And then, so a man lives, so a man dies. We then will hear the screaming, the wailing, and the gnashing of the teeth, which could be avoided. If there is any young person out there involved now in illegal activity, particularly in relation to guns, and they want to make a turn, I will guarantee them, I repeat, I am guaranteed them a job if they are seriously committed to turn away from the life of crime. That is a solemn guarantee I make. I will guarantee you a job that you can at least earn a weekly wage if you are serious about making the turn for the better. The country deserves fewer criminals than we have on the street. And the costs of maintenance of the peace and security require us to be open-minded and to even think outside the box if we are to nip this situation in the bud. I'm nearing the end, and I just want to report and to commend the winner of our 2017 Independence Celebration, the winner who chose the theme Youth, Vision, Integrity, Securing Our Nation's Prosperity. That winner is Miss Donette Dyer Maloney. And so we want to commend this individual for an excellent choice with respect to the theme. Our National Assembly will meet again on Thursday, August 10th. And at this sitting, a number of bills will be tabled. Debates will take place with respect to the Public Accounts Committee bill. This is a landmark bill in the context of our effort to bring the affairs of the government in the sunshine of public scrutiny and accountability in a manner unprecedented in the history of our country. Before our coming into office, there was in fact something called the Public Accounts Committee, but it never functioned. It never functioned. There was not one single report ever made to the Parliament. There was not even a half of a sentence ever presented on a letterhead in relation to this entity called the PAC. This was like having a football team that never played a match, all show and sham. We are now, by this legislation, creating the right kind of legislative support that will make it functional. We say, for example, who that particular committee can summon to come. Because, civil servants can't just go, anybody call and I give information. It don't work like that. So you needed to have the proper legal frame, and you have to have the proper legal context. So the legislation sets out all of that. Who can be called? The financial secretary. Who can be called? The accountant general. Who can be called? The director of audit. And yet in doing so, we have preserved the constitutional independence of the director of audit. So no one can instruct the director of audit. The second element of the good governance agenda will be the escrow accounts bill. This will be debated, and this provides for the strengthening of the accountability framework by all holders of escrow accounts, and will minimize the prospects of misappropriation or even misfeasance in relation to funds by escrow agents. That is, we do not want a scenario where people are collecting monies for investment in the real estate program, and then they ended up not applying it for the purpose intended. The people come all the way from Dubai and elsewhere looking for a property and there is none. That will do damage to the reputation of the country, and that certainly is not in keeping with the repositioning of the program as the platinum standards. I know there are some very excellent escrow account agents, so this is not for you if you are doing good. This is really to establish the minimum standards by which all should adhere and to provide consequences for non-compliance with this. The third bill would be the Legal Profession Amendment Bill. This is a matter that the Bar Association has had some interest in, and so we will bring that again to enhance the good governance agenda in relation to the Bar Association. I want to pause at this moment in time and to allow members of the media an opportunity to raise any matter of general interest.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.